All right, so my name is Rachel Grace Cleveland, and I am an ISM 1 student this year, and I am a senior at Frisco High School, and I'm studying fashion merchandising this year. So a little bit about me to start off. I'm 17. I am a National Charity League member, a member of the Stars Dance Team, and I'm the Youth Council President at my local church. And so I have a sister named Riley, and that's her at the bottom, and a dog named Sadie, who's basically a sister. And I plan on attending Oklahoma State next year, and they have a really great fashion merchandising program there where you can go to New York and Paris, and internships is part of graduating, so you get a lot of hands-on experience. And what got me interested in fashion was I was just raised around it. That's what my mom has done her entire life, and you know, she traveled a lot, and the people she would bring over to like eat dinner with us, it was just something that I was always surrounded by and couldn't really get around, so it just became a part of me. And so my mission statement this year for ISM is, my goal for my ISM experience is to gain connections and wisdom in every aspect of my field with the help of a mentor. I hope to discover more of myself as well as expand my knowledge in the world of fashion merchandising by observing fashion buyers in their professional environment. By the end of my ISM experience, I hope to know where to turn in college and beyond to be able to pursue my dreams. And so to start off, my experience was to do my interviews with professionals, and I began that process with Mrs. Gerald Wiley, and her name's Gerald, but she goes by Jerry. She doesn't like it if you call her Gerald because she hates it, but so everyone just calls her Jerry. And so she was the best person to start off my ISM experience with because she's a genius. Like, I truly believe it from the bottom of my heart that she is a genius, because we met at Stonebriar Mall and we talked for a little bit at the Starbucks, you know, just asking her basic questions about what she does and how she got to where she is. And then we walked around the stores and we went to, you know, like Forever 21 and Abercrombie and Fitch, and she showed me how to point out how you can walk in a store and point out what they value. And so we walked into Abercrombie and Fitch and she was just walking around and just feeling everything. And she just touched everything, and she knew what a product was made of just by touching it. And I was just awestruck the whole time. My jaw was on the ground because she was just so smart. And so she pointed out that if you walk into Abercrombie and Fitch, they have all their new stuff at the front, and so everything that is made of really nice material is up at the front because they value their product and what it's made out of and the quality of it. And then we also walked into Forever 21, and Forever 21 is the exact opposite, where they value their prices, and you can get it for really cheap and still look like you're dressed high-end. And so they have their prices and their sales plastered all over the walls, and so you can really tell that that's what they value over their quality. And then I met with Mr. Josh Olks, and he is a buyer at JCPenney. And he was really great to talk to as well. We ended up talking for like 2 hours just because we just talked the whole time. And his big thing that I learned from him was, don't be afraid to make mistakes because they're inevitable. And in this business, it's gonna happen because you just can't get around it. And you can't get all down if you make mistakes because you'll just get walked over if that happens. And so you have to be able to learn to come back from those things. And he told me a story about how he worked in bedding for a while, and then he worked in men's clothing, and then when he was in bedding, the bed that he was selling was like $199, and he accidentally typed in $19.99, and so all the beds sold for $19.99, and they lost a ton of money. And he was like, whatever, you make mistakes, you got to get over it. And so if that happened to me, I would be like in tears and just quit and run away. But he said you just have to get over stuff like that because it's going to happen. And then I met with Miss Karen Jones, and she works really closely with my mother. And she was a lady who worked all the way up. She started from the very bottom of her business and then worked all the way up to the top. And so the main thing that I got from that interview was that straight out of college, you're not going to get the job that you want. You're going to have to start at the bottom. And it might not be exactly what you want straight off the bat, but you work your way up to those things. And she also taught me that you learn the most from those entry-level jobs. She said if she didn't start in those jobs, that she wouldn't know as much as she knew today. And so that was really important for her, and that was a really good experience for me to go through. And then I talked with Miss Mindy Steele, and she works with store e-com and doing all the retail math, and that is something that's super crucial to go into this business. And so her main thing was you have to know computers and you have to know how to do that retail math. Even if you don't go into her exact position, that's something that you have to know how to do. And so that was a really great thing for me to learn. And then my last interview was with Mr. Jose Conforme, and he is a buyer at Sunham Home Fashions. And so he works with like home textiles. And he taught me that you have to be super in touch with your customer. You have to know about the customer, because no matter which position you're in merchandising, it all goes back to the customer. And that is the main thing that you have to know, because if you're not pleasing your customer, then you're not pleasing anyone in the business. And so although you have to please your boss, you have to please the customer first, because by pleasing the customer, you're pleasing your boss. So that was the main thing I learned from him. And then also as a whole, from all of these interviews, every single person told me that you have to be confident in what you're doing, because if you're not, then as one of the previous interviews, I believe it was Miss Mindy, she told me that you're not only selling a product, you're also selling yourself. Because if people don't like you, this is a super personal business, and if people don't like you, then they're not going to like your products. They have to like you first. So relationships are key, and you have to be confident in what you're doing. And then along with my interviews, I also did a whole bunch of assessments on fashion merchandising. And as a whole, from all of those, I got that a fashion merchandiser is in charge of all the products, as well as budgeting and how it's displayed in your store, down to like lighting and shelving, all of it, you're in charge of that. And then also, this is something I didn't know before. When I was applying to colleges, I was under the impression that I was going to be applying to business schools. But what I actually figured out is that merchandising is under human sciences, since you're studying what people want to buy and when they buy it and how much they buy. So you're actually studying the customer more than you're actually studying the product. And then again, sell yourself, because relationships are so crucial, and your attitude, you have to be confident throughout the whole process. And through those interviews, I always kept thinking about Miss Jerry, because I just loved her so much. And so I asked her to be my mentor, and she said yes, and that was the best day of my ISM experience ever. I was so excited. So she started, and she's a co-owner of Extreme Linen, and they sell textiles for products. And so they sell the materials that are sold to multiple businesses to use for their products. And she started at Dillard's selling ties. It was just a summer job that she was just doing to get money, and her boss said, "You're really good at this. You actually need to look into this." And so he took her under her wing, and then she changed her whole course of what she was going to do, and she ended up being really great at what she does. So I'm super excited to work with her this year. And working with her at my first mentor visit, you know, we kind of laid out everything that we were going to do, and we were talking about dates, and we started talking about my original work. And we sat there for like 30 minutes, and we were like, I don't know what we're going to do. What are we going to do? And she's like, okay, well, let's just do something else right now. We'll leave that and come back and think to it later. So we started talking about the first thing that you have to know if you want to do anything merchandising, and that's the process that a product has to go through before it reaches the point of purchase. And so she was explaining all of that to me, and she kept getting mixed up. She was like, oh wait, no, then it's this, and oh maybe no, it's this. And so we were like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put together a diagram of everything fashion merchandising that you have to know. And so this is what we made here. I'll pass it out. I have some printouts. Here. And so from then on out, we just started laying everything out, and it started with just putting together all the categories that a product has to go through. And then we started defining them, and who works so closely with who, and by what they do, where it begins, and what it has to go through. So this is the final product that we got together. And we made this one for ourselves, because this is the foundation of anything merchandising. So this will help extremely with my final product. And so this will also help. This helped me majorly, because my main goal for my ISM experience was, because fashion merchandising is so broad, I didn't know what I wanted to do in merchandising. I didn't know if I wanted to be a buyer or work in trend or shipping and production, sourcing, buying. I didn't know what I wanted to do in that. And by laying this out, I really figured out what I wanted to do. And that is that first little section, the trend and design and product development, somewhere in there, that is what I was drawn to, and that's what I loved so much. When we were talking about it and the people that I interviewed that were in trend and design, that's what I'm most drawn to. And so by making this diagram, this also helps with, because it wasn't just Miss Jerry who gets mixed up, this is such a complex diagram, it took me forever to even comprehend what it meant. And because, as you can see, point of purchase and buying also branch out into multiple different things. And it's a really complicated process. And so this is also fashion merchandisers everywhere can use this to know who they can work closely in relations with and all that good stuff. And then the thing that we talked about was the main thing that we wanted to be the centerpiece of our diagram is the consumer, right there in all those highlighted and all the arrows, because no matter what you do, it all goes back to the consumer. That's the most important thing about fashion merchandising as a whole. And so by making this diagram, we also decided what I wanted to do for my final product. And as I said, I was drawn more to the trend, design, and product development area. And so for my final product, what me and Miss Jerry are going to do, we are going to make a trend report for 2016 fall, and kind of like a back to campus thing. And so I'm focusing on women's apparel for back to campus. And the pictures that I have up here are kind of what a trend report looks like. I took these from the 2016 Vogue Spring trend reports. And so these are kind of what they look like. You put together all the trends with pictures like that, and then you make up the names aren't something that you take from the internet. You make up the names as a trend director. A couple of weeks ago, I met with Miss Jerry when we were laying everything out that we were going to do for my final product. And she also brought along Miss Deb Schweiss, and she is a trend director. It's called At Home, and so again, home textiles. But trend directors all over do the same thing, just for different companies. And so she brought along her trend report that she did for like a back to campus for home accessories. And so she showed me what her trend report looked like, and that's basically what me and Miss Jerry will be putting together, but mainly me, for my final product, just for apparel. And so you put together these little pictures just like this, and then I'll be making up the names for the trends, and as well as I'll also be looking at competitors. So what I am most drawn to is Miss Deb laid out a little diagram for me, and it looks just like a hump, just like that. And she said there's people at the end right here, people at the peak, and people at the other end. These are the people over here that are like Tom Ford and Michael Kors, and they're starting all the trends, and they're super high end. And then you get to the peak and you have like the Neiman Marcus and Urban Outfitters that as soon as those trends start, they're on top of them. And then down over here you have JCPenney and Macy's, who kind of get on the bandwagon a little late. And so what I decided is that where everyone wants to be, you want to be right at the peak. So like Urban Outfitters and Neiman Marcus, they have it the best, where they don't start trends, but as soon as they start, they're on top of them. Right when people want to buy them, they have them in their stores. And so that's what I'll be doing. I will be basically role-playing as if I'm a trend director for a specialty store such as Urban Outfitters or Neiman Marcus, and putting together a trend report for those specialty stores. So I'll be taking from like runway shows and all of those trends and putting it together. And I'll also be looking at my competitors, which would be other specialty stores, and also the JCPenney and Macy's and Nordstrom's and such. And I'll look at what they're doing well and how my company can do it better. And so that will be what my final product will look like at the very end. And so I'm super excited for that, and I've already started working on it, and it's fun getting to look at all the runway shows. It makes me so excited. So that is what I've done so far, and I would like to leave you with my quote, and that is, "The things that we love tell us what we are." And this quote, when I was looking for a quote for ISM, this quote stuck with me so much, because I'm a firm believer and you shouldn't do something for the money or because, a lot of people can do it. I firmly believe that you have to love what you're doing, otherwise you're not going to have any fun in life. And so this is something that I'm so passionate about, and I know that I'll never get bored with. And so I'm super excited for what the future has in store, and if anybody has any questions, let me know, and thank you for your attention.